So I think we are good to go now. Good morning, everyone. Please keep your microphone on for a while. Mr. Hurdakis, your microphone is open. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. On behalf of the European Rural Mobility Network, I would like to warmly welcome you to today's webinar. We are delighted to welcome back many of you that who have joined us in our previous webinars, and we're very pleased to welcome many new participants to the ERMN community. So thank you all for being here, and we are looking forward to a very engaging and insightful webinar and discussion. Before we begin, let me briefly introduce you to some of the housekeeping rules, let's say. This webinar will be recorded. It's better if you keep your microphone muted during all presentations, and there will be a specific open session later on in which you will be able to ask questions directly to the speakers. You can type any question, any comment, anything you want in the chat box, and you can also send any other communication to our email, which is info@ERMN_network. We kindly ask you to indicate your name and your organization when you leave a comment or a question in the chat box. And we will pose questions from the chat to the webinar speakers. If you experiences any technical issues, please write us an email and we'll get back to you the earliest possible. We will try to help you. Let's go now to our agenda. Today's webinar is structured around three main parts, let's say. Firstly, there's a brief overview of the funding challenges and the opportunities for rural mobility, and it will be presented by ERMN's President Andrea Lorenzini. Secondly, we will have three practical case studies from across Europe. We will hear Czechia, Portugal, and Greece. And then we will follow with a panel discussion and an open Q&A session where we will explore how we are going to build sustainable funding models for rural mobility. And finally, you will hear some of our updates of our upcoming activities regarding our network ERMN. Before now we go into topic, let me briefly tell you a bit about the ERMN, the network, the European Rural Mobility Network, which is the first pan-European initiative which is dedicated to improving rural mobility. It was established as an ASBL under the Belgian law on July 28th last year, and it aims to bring basically rural municipalities and other interested parties together to share experience, learn from each other, explore ways to enhance accessibility of rural territories. And it aims actually to create a unified and shared voice for the sector, paving the way, let's say, for a new and prosperous era for rural mobility in the network, as you can imagine, didn't emerge. We see our goals. I thought we would see our background. So our key goals, our mission is clear. We want actually to bring together knowledge, experience, exchange good practices, and mostly you can see that we want to strengthen actually the collaboration and the capacity between rural municipalities, communities, associations, regions, and practitioners. And mostly we aim to act as a collective voice for the sector, a unified voice for the sector, mostly needing to advocate for policies, strategies, and funding mechanisms that support sustainable rural mobility. Our background, if we can go to the next slide. So we've changed a little bit the slides, so sorry for this. What we do. We achieve this by driving research and innovation. We are studying policies, we identify good practices, we test new solutions for rural mobility services and options. We provide advice and support to rural municipalities and in order to fund mobility projects, in order to finance and continue to have ongoing policies and practices. We analyze the impact of the traditional car-oriented transport systems on the rural landscape and try to advise and collaborate with authorities in order to identify how we can implement different solutions. And of course, we have key values that drive us through the whole route, let's say, regarding the collaboration, the transparency, the gender and generational equality, and other critical values. If we can go to the next slide, please. Although we are a very new network, we established only last year, we've tried to do a lot through this very, very dense space. We've done so far 2 webinars regarding the increase of ridership in rural mobility and regarding demand responsive transport and how this concept can be explained in daily operation. We had our first in-person event last year in Brussels with several critical participants discussing the right to stay and the right to move. Can we please go on? And something that we're very proud of is that we've took part in the European Commission consultation regarding the right to move and regarding the right to stay, as we try to make rural mobility issue as a very critical issue in order to keep rural communities running and be sustainable. Can we please go on? So about today, as you are well aware, we will explore and how rural mobilities can actually assess their financing needs and which of the funding opportunities are available to support mobility solutions. We will hear very, very interesting cases as practical experiences and approaches as they're implemented across Europe, and we will listen to issues and challenges that they faced, so we can go through a very interesting discussion right afterwards. And we will really hope that you will leave this webinar full of knowledge, maybe new challenges, maybe new issues that you haven't heard of, and we are here to discuss it afterwards as well. Thank you very much. Now I will pass it on to our president, Andrea Lorenzini, who will present you the typical challenges and funding mechanisms in terms of rural mobility. Thank you very much. Andrea.
Thank you very much, Maria. I hope you can hear me well as well. And I will try to be brief and try to share with you some insights about what are the key financing issues and challenges and opportunities for rural mobility. And also for my part, a warm welcome to you all. And it's great to see that this network is growing and growing, and this community is also, started to become a concrete reality with so many familiar faces as well. So I'll try to give you some basic concept about what are the key aspects to need to be considered when planning, designing, and developing a rural mobility solution. So starting from the basic concept, firstly, we need to bear in mind that there are different aspects to be considered. Funding that is related to different funds available for the development and maintenance of mobility solution, while the financing is the process of securing capital funds and getting the needed funds. At the same time, we need to bear in mind 2 specific aspects. One is the capital costs, that are the expenses needed to acquire, upgrade, and maintain physical fixed assets, road infrastructure, bike lines, bridge, but also vehicles as well. And then operating costs, that are the costs that are needed to run a service. For example, the energy costs for running vehicles, the staff salaries, insurance, and so forth and so on. And also, when particularly thinking about the financial frameworks for rural mobility, this is actually not just for rural mobility solution, but is for all the whole set of mobility solutions. We can have 3 main parts. One is the commercial services that generate substantial revenues, the subsidized services, and then the volunteer-based services. And in most cases, rural mobility solutions are not profitable when all costs are included, particularly the direct cost to operate the services, because due to the low population density that leads to user revenues that are not sufficient to cover the operational expenditures. Therefore, in rural areas, in 99% of the cases, we talk about subsidized services and volunteer-based services that need to cover the capital cost and the operating cost. And at the same time, whatever financial framework is in place or is planned to be addressed or try to be solved, it's always a matter of mandate, money, and capacity. What does it mean? It means that we need to understand who has the legal mandate and the organizational and human resource capacity to act in the domain of rural mobility. It's also a matter of financial resources. Where and who owns the financial resources needed to operate a mobility service, and also the capacity. Who has, on the one hand, the institutional capacity, and on the other hand, the operational and technical capacity to manage a new rural mobility service. And when we are talking about funding issues, we need to also understand who leads and needs to mobilize funding. And most often, rural mobility projects have different lead proposals, each with different needs and objectives. For instance, here I just tried to put 4 key target lead proposals: rural municipalities that might organize, co-finance, and even implement by themselves local transport solution for their citizens. There could be transport operator authorities that might be engaged in the expansion of transport networks and ensuring accessibility in vast territorial areas. But at the same time, there could be NGO and community group that might advocate for inclusive and equitable transport services, and they can represent the mobility needs of underserved population, addressing some gaps in the current public transport delivery. What are the initiatives that can be proposed for funding? And I hope that this diagram that was developed some years ago now is a bit more familiar for you. As you know, there are 3 main types of services: the flexible transport service, the asset sharing services, and the ride sharing services, backed with the fixed route public transport by bus and rail, and the digital ICT enabler, including all the supporting services for travel information, reservation, booking, payment, and so forth and so on. So this is the spectrum of mobility solution that can be proposed for funding. And if this is the spectrum of mobility solution, we can also have a quick look about what are the different funding and financial requirements. If you go to the funding requirements, and here I know that this slide might be a bit complex and challenging to be understood, but I just wanted to map out what are the different funding requirements per each of the various services. For instance, if we take the top left part, the asset sharing, e-bike sharing, and car sharing, launching an asset sharing service can require significant upfront capital for the procurement of the vehicles, the cars, the bikes to be shared, and the supporting infrastructure such as the charging station. By contrast, if you go to the bottom right, to the ride sharing services, the financial requirement for ride sharing might be or generally are lower than for asset-heavy solution. At the same time, there are still costs associated with the coordination platform, either app-based or web-based, to connect the riders and the drivers. Plus, we need to consider the digital ICT enabler and the infrastructure, basically the purple and the green boxes here. There might be some costs needed for the public works, for the safe pathways or the public transport or shared hubs or stops, and as well a digital layer for the platform and integrating the payment system. Funding requirement. If you go to the financial issues, again, we can see some differences. In terms of asset sharing, that are the costs for the vehicle maintenance, insurance, and management of booking system. And there might also be some costs for the relocation of vehicles to meet the fluctuating demand. For the flexible route demand responsive transport or the door-to-door demand responsive transport, there are some substantial costs for the driver wages, for fuel, the vehicle maintenance, and IT system maintenance. And so you can start to appreciate that there are various costs that need to be faced, both for the funding and the financial issues that need to be sustained. At the same time, there is a great opportunity in rural areas to also engage with the local communities, and also as developed and analyzed through the Smart and Smartness initiative with the catalog of rural shared mobility good practices. Local communities have taken the initiative to address the issue of rural mobility, where there are some gaps in the current provision, by mobilizing, implementing, or supporting. And community initiatives can be beneficial because they can cater more effectively to social needs, and they have potential to create new relationships. And at the same time, this initiative can be less expensive and they rely on volunteers' availability, for instance, as a driver or as a back office support, and can also be more flexible. At the same time, we need to bear in mind two key issues. The first is that some models depending solely on volunteer can suffer from disruption, for instance, when there is a decrease in participation level or high turnover of volunteer. And also, bearing in mind that mobility services is a strongly regulated domain, so there needs a need of mix of authorization, permits, insurance, and safety certification, which vary depending on the service type, the scale of the service, and local or national regulation. So for that, some tips or some advices on the one hand to engage structured staff that can complement volunteers, and at the same time fostering partnership and collaboration between communities and municipalities or local transport authorities to expand the capacity beyond those of the community proposal alone. But the key challenge when trying to also particularly focus on the operating costs is not just the functional costs in the sense of finding a balance between the locally owned developed scheme from the community and the requirement of the planning and the structured administration or the economic aspect. Is also a social issue, because to make the service work, it's rather a cultural and social one. What does it mean? Is that whatever service needs to be implemented in rural areas needs to be publicized quite substantially. Lead proposer needs to encourage people to use and support the service, importance of taking care of marketing, advertising, and so forth, because we need to motivate people to reassess their mobility options that are maybe for 1, 2, 3 decades or for the entire life being based on a car-dependent mobility habit. And therefore, the promotion of a modal shift toward the use of new, for instance, shared mobility solution is something that needs to be really sustained. I had just 10 minutes, so I need to be brief, I know, and I will try to also conclude this presentation. So I wanted also to give you maybe some insights or some tips about the EU funding panorama. There is a spectrum of opportunities, and is a good toolkit that has been developed from the Joint Research Center, where some European funded initiative can be assessed here, and we also put the link for the YouTube video that give an insight about what this toolkit is about, and also some other links. And also bearing in mind that EU funds cannot sustain the service over time, over a long period of time, but still they can be valuable, for instance, in the purchase of some vehicles that need to be developed. So this is to say that it's not solving all the issues of financial issues, but still can provide an opportunity for that. I didn't have time now to also enter into the detail of the national and the regional frameworks for financial frameworks, because that's not something to do now. But I want to conclude that there is a great knowledge that has been developed, particularly through the SmarterNet project. There are 2 specific reports that we drafted. One is the guidance on funding and financing option for rural mobility, and the other is a summary report of funding stream and related issues across European countries, where you can have access to experiences, good practice example, and so forth and so on. And particularly, the guidance on funding and financial option is available in all European languages. So it's an handsome document that you can have a look at to start getting acquainted about what are the key financial issues and opportunities for rural mobility. In particular, we also develop a stepwise approach as the lead partner of the SmarterNet project, and also the leader of this guidance, where we try to provide that practical advice to practitioners who want to start implementing a new service or integrating a service with the existing one. And this, we hope, can help you in trying to navigate within the complex framework of financial issues for rural mobility. For any question, you can drop an email, and I think we can now move forward with the webinar, with the presentation from our good practice speaker. Thank you very much. Maria, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. It is very critical that you see that there are all these mechanisms that we can look through funding, and also there are new streams that are coming right after the guidance was issued, and the ERMN will be here to provide to all its members the new streams that are available at any time. So now we are going to our examples, our good practice experiences. We will hear from Dominic Yannick from Citia and Czechia, the example of Bisbus. So Dominic, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks. I'm not allowed to share, so if anyone could allow me to share, I would like be more than happy to share a presentation. Great. So I hope that you can see the presentation. So once again, hi to everyone. I'm Dominic, founder of Citia, and we launched the system which is called Bizbus in city of Bystrice. It's kind of rural DRT, fully flexible DRT, which you can order in the city and nearby villages. So the basic numbers, it's something like 5,000 citizens who are living in this area. There's something like 200 virtual stops. You can board the bus. You can join the ride. It's driven by technology, by algorithms. So all of the rides, or most of the rides, are pooled. You can order it to the phone, through the call, or directly at the car. So these are like basic setups for this kind of DRT. And the issue was that the city want to have their own public transport, which will be like crazy expensive. So we have to find a different solution. Here you can see on the right side, there's one of the missions of one of the car. To be honest, in average, we are able to take something like 150 passengers per day, which is a lot for the fully flexible DRT. So as I said, like there's almost 5,000 citizens, 65 square kilometer of the whole area of the whole region. So it's like one city and 24 villages. And the success was basically in 2 years, which the region was launched. So you've been able to serve more than 3,000 passengers in less than a 10-minute commute, and 98 passengers have been served in less than 15 minutes. So it was like great success in that kind of region. So just to know like what does it mean, or what the platform is about. There's a driver app, there's a passenger app. You can order the ride, or you can get the information about the bus, their location, timetables, and so on. There's a real-time allocation, which is really critical part. So you can order it like immediately. If you are standing next to the car, you can order it like 1 minute before you want to go somewhere, and you get the immediate response when you will be picked up and when you will be in your destination when you want to go. There's also like connection to legacy fixed lines if you want to travel to Prague or other cities out of this area, but like the DRT can take you only in that designed area. Behind this, there's an algorithm, or like smart one algorithm who in the real time, they're optimizing all of the passengers' cars, all of the requests, pre-orders, and everything together. There's also like environment for the dispatchers, so they can order it through the phone calls, or the seniors, for example, they can order it directly at the city town hall. So there's many options how to get to this kind of service, and it's open for everyone, literally like everyone. Also, they have the integration to the regional bus lines. So you can buy like one ticket and you can go from city of Bystrica, for example, to Prague, and the city can manage their service. It's fully on their own decisions. They can manage the stops. They can manage the number of cars. They can manage like basically everything. So here you can see the situation before we launched the demand responsive transport solution. So the red isochrones are something like 120 or up to 150 minutes of if you want to travel to city of Bystrice from the design region. On the right side, you can see the situation after we launched the DRT. And here on the blue isochrones, we can get you to the city of Bystrice all around the region in less than 15 minutes. So I think it's great, because if you live there, there's literally like no service at all. So some numbers after the 2 years, the ridership grows. That's great, and now we are serving like twice the number of rides we've been serving a year ago. Most of the rides are on time. 75% is ordered through the app, which is great, because even though in this region, there's living a lot of seniors and people who are like typical rural, let's say, segments who are not used to order things through the phone or through the app. So that's a great success. There's almost €1 the cost of one trip, in less than €1 per the seat, and we have in average like 9 rides per hour, which is again like one of the great numbers we get. We've been afraid that we'll be facing a lot of like no-show incidents when someone will order the bus through the app without the registration, and people will be trying to violate the service or something like that. But after the 2 years, we have in less than 1% of no-show incidents when someone will order a bus and it's not there on time. So as you can see in the slides before, there's a buses with combustion engines, the old one. It doesn't matter because even though they are old one, even though they are combustion engines, they still consume way less of the fuel than the typical like large bus, which to be honest didn't service at all the whole region, and it's still like less fuel and less, let's say, the footprint is smaller than if all of the passengers will use their own car. And typically in this kind of rural regions, people has like really old cars, most with the combustion engine. So that's one of the KPI we are trying to focus on. The economics is really important because the whole system is financed by the city. It's not financed by any kind of subsidy from the government, region, anything like that. It's fully financed by the city. And they've been facing the decision if they will go with the typical public transport with fixed lines, which will cost them something like 14 to 18 million per year of the Czech crowns. But this kind of service, serving the whole region, almost like half of the citizens on a weekly basis, it costs only 2.2 million per crown. So it's way cheaper than the typical public transport. Still, it has to be subsidized by the city because the ridership is really low, and the city have to subsidize fully the rest of the cost. What is really important here in the city of Bystrica, and it's unique for the whole Central European region, the whole service is operated by the city-owned company, because in every other regions, it's operated by some bus company or public transport agency, but this kind of service, it's whole service by the city company. So they bought the cars and they pay for the drivers. The drivers are employee of the city, so it's kind of unique. Last few things, I will not take any more of your time. We have to change the legislation for the DRT in Czech Republic. We are the authors of the change. Some things have been done really great. For example, it's public service, so it's way cheaper than if it will be in kind of legislation of taxes or something like that. But there's few issues. The critical issues, this kind of DRT, it's only for cars with 8 seats plus the driver. So we cannot use like large vans, or we cannot use like the small buses for this kind of DRT. There's also like a gap in terms of how the virtual stop should be placed, where we could place that. So that's few things which are not really well in the Czech, and we are trying to make it better in Poland and Slovakia. What we are facing now and what we are preparing for the next years. So first, to change the service for the new law, under the new law of the DRT legislation, we will save another 20%. Then we want to introduce the semi-fixed lines for the peak hours. So if the system is overbooked and you can't use, or the fully flexible system is not effective as it could be, we want to introduce the semi-fixed line for morning and afternoon peak hours. Now we are connecting, or it's already done, it's connected to the regional fixed lines, so you can travel under the one ticket. And for example, the DRT bus, the van, will wait for you if your bus is late. So there's more like features how we are trying to integrate the DRT to the regional public transport network. And the KPI for the next year is again double the number of passengers which has been served so far. So that's kind of what we are looking for in the next years. We have some lesson learned for the DRT in general. First, the platform, it has to be really like fully scalable, fast, quick, and let's say smart by technology. It's very important if you don't want to grow the cost with the growth of the ridership. Another let's say lesson learned was critical, that we have to connect all of the villages, not just the city, but all of the villages around, which is not kind of easy, and there's a lot of politics and so on. Another thing is inclusiveness of the whole system. We would like to have just the apps, but it's not possible. So we've been able to use the other like AI systems to help the seniors and people without the smartphones to join the system and be able to order it. Even though it works pretty well, we still have people at the city town hall which are helping like in person to order the bus or get the information. The last thing is really important, and that's the DRT as a feeder for legacy public transport network, not their competitor. And that's a lot of discussion with the regional organization who organize the legacy public transport network, how to do it, how to connect the DRT. And once again, like it's really important to have the inclusiveness of the system. So, for example, people with some kind of disabilities can join the DRT, but they can also join and be connected to the line, which is able for them to use. So, for example, it has a special car for wheelchair or strollers or other things. If I can wrap the whole process in last 2 years, we learned a lot of things. And the first critical thing was to do the proper analysis based on the data, which goal we are trying to fulfill. If it's about the serviceability or about the comfort, what should be done and what the system should do for the people. The second thing is simulation before the first car will go. So you save them a lot of money if you do the simulation right, if you have the data, and if you plan the whole like marketing around, so people can start using it since the first day, and it's like properly designed. The design of the system, I mean, how many villages you have there, how many public transport stations, how many virtual stops you have. It's more important than the best algorithm you can buy in the market. Because if you do the design wrong, the technology will not help you. It's not working like that. And the last thing is like taking care of the whole system during the year. So not just sell the software, not just prepare the design, but optimize it on a monthly basis, because the whole system is changing like every season, and almost like every month. There's new passengers, there's old passengers, there's a different expectation from passengers who already know the system, there's a different expectation from the new passengers which are trying to use it for the first time. So you have to take care the whole time you are there, and if you choose some partners. So it was really quick from my side. If you have any questions, just let me know, or you can write me a message or whatever. It works for you. So thanks for the time, and I hope that you get some information and some lesson learned we been able to pick up during the time.
Thank you, Dominic. I think that before we go to our next presenter, there are a few questions in the chat. Maybe we can start with one and then have the next questions in the discussion, or we can offer a direct connection with Dominic to exchange ideas. So there's one very interesting question, whether you bought the app or you developed the app, and if there's a rough cost of the development or the bot of the app. And there's a sub question there, that how much management does the system require? How many people are working on full-time, not including drivers or bus maintainers, just for the application and the system running?
Okay, so the first thing, we are the company who developed the technology. So we developed the technology for 5 years, and it cost us €3.5 million, but it's not the cost for the city, because we are like, our business model is to consult, design, and provide the technology. So the city of Bystrice is paying us €600 monthly for the whole service, all of the apps, for the solution, for everything. Like it's like there. So the cost for the city is €600 monthly, and there's no other cost than that. So that's consulting and the software and all of the apps without the limits. Regarding the how many people need to be present or working with the solution, to be honest, like there's no dispatcher, there's no one, everything is fully autonomous. So there's only like one lady on the city town hall who has taken care of the whole like information center. So it's not her job to do just the ordering for the people. And I think like there's less than 4 orders through the day without the app and through the city town hall info center. So in general, the cost for the city is 600 euro. That's the average cost in Czech, Poland, Slovakia we had. And there's, to be honest, like literally like no management of the service at all, because everything is fully autonomous, everything is through the technology. So yeah, if I answer the question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Nick. We have a couple of more questions, but we will keep in touch. We will share the presentations afterwards, and you will have the recording of the webinar, so you can see all the details. I keep this before-after photo from Dominic's presentation that shows the impact in the coverage of the system, which was very, very positive. Now we can move on and listen to Miguel Galado from the Transport Authority of the Alentejo Littoral. Miguel, the floor is yours. You can share your presentation. Thank you very much.
Hello, good morning. I think you can see the presentation and hear me. I'm Miguel Calado from the Intermunicipal Community of Alentejo Litoral, which is that region painted in light blue in the map of Portugal. We are a public transport authority, and these are our main competences, but basically what we do is to guarantee accessibility, social inclusion, and territorial cohesion. Working with our main operator of the bus service. Just to give some details about our territory, it is low density. We have the municipal of Alcácer do Sal, which is the one on the northernmost part, is bigger than the Isle of Madeira, and it has 45 times less the density, population density of that island. The municipality on the southernmost, which is Odmira, which is even bigger and is the biggest municipality of our country. We do have a lot of issues with transporting people around, because it's really long traveling distances for really small villages. We transport around almost 1 million. Probably this year will be 1 million passengers per year. Just so you have an idea, that's the amount of passengers that the main metropolitan area of Portugal transports in a single day. So we are around less than 1% of the total country. The challenge in itself is not moving many people; it's ensuring that everybody can move. Financing the system itself. The tariffs only cover around 20% of the costs of the system. We do have a couple of national programs that help to finance it. For example, the passes for the young, they are subsidized directly by the states, and this covers almost 50% of the whole cost of the operation. Given that this is somewhat recent, because up until 2023, that was also an existing condition, but it was the municipalities that were supporting it. So for territories like Alentejo Litoral, we've been having that condition for more than a decade probably. But the state-wise investments is only from 2024. But still, it supports the whole system because it's the great majority of passengers are students. Then we have Incentivo Plus TP, which is also a national product. Firstly, it started just as a fare reduction measure, but then it evolved to something more. It gave us financing to also gather some studies to finance the transport network itself in putting more services, more frequencies, and also being able to purchase and to have some studies so we can better understand the reality of our network and also have a better planning for it. The incentive plus TP is funded by the environmental fund.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry?
Excuse me for interrupting. There seemed to be an issue in the presentation. Can you put that on full screen? And because we keep seeing 2 slides,
Okay.
we can see slide 4 now. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Just talking a little bit more of incentive TP. This is the financed by the National Environmental Funds. And this is financed by the revenue of additional over CO2 emissions. So even if you don't use the public transport and you use your car, your CO2 emitting car, you are also in some way funding the system. So we're trying to pass from one to another the conditions to finance the system. So everybody somewhat ends up paying for it. Funding is more of an investment rather than a subsidy. We also have the funding notices, both at a national level and European level, and then the PTA regular financing, which helps us support the PTA salaries and also other actions to promote the transport system. A couple of years ago, this was the one used to build some studies and to purchase management tools, but now those are covered by the Incentive plus TP1. The transport network itself, only 10% of the transport network is supported by CMAL directly. The other one, we see that it's the concession part of the transport network is supposedly supported by ticketing, but a great majority of that ticketing is also supported by us due to the subsidizing of the fares. Our network is quite big and it's longitudinal. So we go from Lisbon, which is our northernmost most neighbor and the biggest metropolitan area in the country, and we also go to other locations like Algarve and Central Alentejo. Just to show you a little bit of the measures that we have put in place with the financing that we do have. We do have the price reduction. Previously to when CMAL came to be a transport authority, there were line passes that could cost around 150 euros per month. And now in 2019, we kept those prices at 40 euros. And since last year, we kept those at around 20 euros. That has brought to us surely more passengers. And this is a measure also of social inclusion. So everybody can access more easily the transportation, either to go to services, to healthcare, or just for employment reasons. The prices itself are frozen since 2022, and we also have free bus passes for old combatants or war veterans, if you prefer. We also have free transportation of the summer, and I forgot to mute the video. This is it was a pilot that started in 2023, so we are now in the 3rd edition, and it has keep on growing from since then. This is a service that goes from the center of the municipalities to the seasides. It has reinforced the existing transportation, and it also free for all the pass holders. This has granted also more passengers on the system, but this also has, besides the social cohesion measure, also an ecological measure, because we were able to remove some cars from the parks around the seasides, as instead of, for example, 4 friends, each of them taking a car, or even if all the 4 friends would share a car, they all now go on the bus. And it was quite nice to go and see the bus. Everybody is with their sun umbrella and with the chest with all the food for the day. So everybody is already using the transportation. This year it started on the 1st of July and it will carry on to the end of August. As I mentioned before, we also used our financing to gather some studies like the SUM. We also recently had the mapping and assessment of all of the bus stops, so we can now see which one we should invest more and which one should be treated as a priority to replace or to clean. Also investment on interfaces. And then the studies on the tariff system that we are planning to change the tariff system from a line-based tariff to a network-based tariff. To end briefly, we also used our funding to purchase some management tools, like for example the Optibus platform. We use it both for network planning, so mapping, so we can better connect with our operator, and we also are able to speak in the same language. With this, we can also finally have our GTFS file ready and also better use the information available to the public, and also for schedule optimization, so we can easily see when, for example, a passenger suggests that, oh, maybe you should postpone this schedule 20 minutes or just backtrack it a bit. And then we can really see if it's viable or not. In short, this is what we believe in, is that funding can either lead to lower fares or accessibility, and those are a matter of social inclusion, and it does have a great importance in what concerns to access to both education, but also to healthcare, employment, and access to services. Because sometimes it's not just guaranteeing that everybody is connected, but it's that everybody can move and do what they need to do. It's not about making the buses itself profitable. It's about guaranteeing mobility, equality of opportunity, and territorial cohesion. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm open.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Keep in mind that we will have all three speakers together with us in the panel discussion later, so they will share some more of the issues that are coming up to the questions, and also feel free to respond directly to the chat on the questions posed. Let's go now to our last presentation from the case studies that we have from Greece, from Mr. Vasilis Mizaras from CERT. Vasilis, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I see now that I have all right. Yes. Okay, I found it. Well, nice to meet you all. I don't know if you can see my screen right now.
We can see the screen. You can put it on full screen so we can better look through. Thank you.
Okay, so we have some case studies from Greece. My name is Vasilis Mizaras. I'm representing the Hellenic Institute of Transport, which is part of the Center for Research and Technology, Hellas CERT. So first of all, let's see what is the background for Greece and what are the challenges. I have seen the presentation. I understand that some countries in Europe are more advanced in this topic than Greece. I think overall, I can speak at least for myself and my organization. We have limited experience. We have quite a few of pilot applications. We started Galileo for Mobility, which was a DRT pilot application before 2020. Then we continued with Upper. Upper is about enhancing public transport. And then we have a collaboration with S-Mode Airbag Network, to have an upscale of upper application in the city of Thessaloniki. But we also have started a new project which is called Althea, and this is happening in Ioannina, another city in northern Greece. So what is the bottom line? The bottom line is that we have done a lot of pilots, and now we don't know how exactly to move on to full-scale deployment. We have a lack of framework. We have a lot of willingness to engage by city authorities, by transport authorities, but there is a lack of legal or funding framework. As a matter of fact, to correct that, what I said before, we have a new opportunity for funding from social fund for different municipalities as well as Athens and Thessaloniki. But I think this is not a very clear framework overall to understand how to move on. So what are the real life challenges we are facing? And based on the experience we had from these pilots, we have a governance issue, or let's say we need a governance model. We need to understand what are the contractual amendments when we're talking about concession or an outsourcing of the public transport service. We don't have a specific or concrete and coherent financing methodology to understand what are exactly the costs of DRT versus a fixed route public transport. We have a lack of understanding how to attract actual deployment funding and in which, by which sources and how to do it. We understand we have a traveler's resistance to adopt DRT versus private car use. DRT is not always seen transparently as a public transport service. Inclusion in a greater mobility as a service scheme. Technical integration, this is a key issue because we have legacy digital infrastructure and ticketing systems, and we have to understand how to integrate DRT systems into this existing infrastructure. And I think last but not least at all is a fair policy, and sometimes this gets too complicated to handle. So starting with the upper pilot, the upper project is still running. The upper pilot for DRT is still running and will be running for the next 4 months. This is the area where the pilot is taking place. This is in fact part of the urban area of the greater Thessaloniki area. As you can see here, the red part on your left-hand map is the urban part, is the agglomeration. Then we have a metropolitan area, which is the blue part plus the red part. And then we have the green part, which is really part of the regional province. But you can see here that this is part of the upper, as I said before. You can see here on the right-hand map that these two areas where the pilot is taking place are really very low density areas, peri-urban and rural areas. Now we are expanding the pilot for a metropolitan municipality, which is called Oreokastro. Oreokastro is really a very big area with a lot of local rural communities and with very, very low public transport service level. This is, as I said before, we're doing in collaboration with an airbagged network called S-Mode. So what are the targets we are placing for these specific pilots? First of all, we have defined from the beginning that we are targeting niche user groups. So it's either for example, the unaccompanied kids traveling for outside school activities are one of the key target groups for the area of Pilea and Panorama, while for the area of Oreokastro, again, they're going to be youth people, younger people under the age of 25. Then we are targeting rural area local community transfers. So this is a big problem because there are limited fixed public transport connections and services, but we also see the DRT as a local community engagement tool. In fact, DRT is much more sociable than, of course, than private car or private taxi, but it's also more sociable than bus too, because a lot of people are arranging to take the same car vehicle for a DRT trip together. Then We also have as a target to connect big generators like industrial spots or schools or hospitals with community centers or the public transport network. And of course, for Thessaloniki, it's quite important to feed public transport backbone and metro networks. So the DRT service characteristics are as follows. This is taxi-based service. We are using an available fleet of a taxi company. We are using a hybrid system. It means that for our virtual stops, we have home addresses, but also major point of interest. And this is a service which is available 24 hours, 7 days per week. As I said before, we have developed web-based tools to support the DRT functions from the fleet point of view, but the taxi assignment is done by the existing taxi company systems. We have an emphasis on safety security monitoring. As I said before, one of the big targets for this pilot are the unaccompanied children. So we have integrated with their telematic system, with a taxi telematic system. And we are following a zone-based fare system, which is already confusion because this is totally different than the fare policy we have for public transport for the city of Thessaloniki. But anyway, this is subsidized for the pilot, but the users have a full transparency on how many actually money they're spending on this service. On the other hand, we have a mobile app. As I said before, we have up to 3 travelers per trip for a taxi. The clustering is done for the next day, so up to 10 o'clock in the night, all people have to arrange for their travel for the next day. Cancellation is allowed up to 30 minutes before the trip starts, and we have also a feel lucky function, which means that if there is already an arranged trip, you can hook in this trip if there is space available in the vehicle. From the point of view of public transport accessibility, this is a service fully supported. For example, you see here for the area of Panorama, we have a very good coverage regarding fixed stops. They are covering almost 90% of the population in terms of walking to the bus stop, but we have a schedule of 60 to up to 2 hours for weekends for this local fixed line public transport service. So the bottom line for us is not about let's say the cost, the socioeconomic cost benefit of this service, because we are offering a better service than actual public transport, fixed public transport, but whether there is a life after the funding of the pilot ends. So Theta, or OSETH in Greek, is the Thessaloniki Public Transport Authority, already foresees for the next concession contract with the public transport fleet operator, 5 to 10% of the service of the transportation to be accomplished by DRT in the metropolitan area, not the urban area. And they want to establish a single DRT service framework. But there are some typical problems when we're talking about this single DRT framework, and this is what we're trying to achieve through the upper project. How to calculate the actual costs, how to define whether DRT is a more viable solution versus a fixed route, because this is an important precondition to establish. Key aspect to understand is collaboration with stakeholders. We have understood 2 types of stakeholders. One is the local administrators. So with the Theta can emphasize with them what should be the actual target of specific community transfers. And then we have providers of local activities or big generators. And by big generators, we mean industrial areas, private schools, hospitals, sport academies. Then we have another important aspect, which is digital integration. So UpperFlex and as application is a readily available application, but it has to be integrated into existing mobile applications for public transport information, for ticket purchase, and for a future mass application. And then the biggest problem of all is how to integrate the fare policy and integrate it into one and single ticketing, probably with some discount for the use of DRT, especially when this is combined with other public transport services. So this is the part where we have developed the service framework. We have an overall synopsis. This is a summary of what we understand as the service framework taxonomy. We have two aspects. One is improved public transport service. So we have an already fixed bus service running in an area, and we want to improve it in terms of geographic coverage or in terms of time coverage or whatever. And there are two cases: low demand areas, so a local bus service, or an existing feeder service to metro or to backbone public transport network. And then we have the introduction of a new DRT service, and this could be a lot of things, really. And this could be either owned, introduced by the Public Transport Authority, by THETA, or owned by the big generators, the municipalities, the local communities, and run by them, but under the same service framework that is going to be deployed by the Public Transport Authority. So there are some aspects and benefits in doing that by integrating the information, getting a complete, for example, journey planner or ticket or whatever is decided in this service framework. So we have developed two business models. One is for improved existing service. The owner is always THETA in this case. So there is an existing concession contract, and we need this to be amended to include also the DRT, and the public transport service provider has the opportunity or the option to provide a fixed service or to provide a DRT, and there should be a financial justification to do that. And this is an important question mark in this business model. We have a financial compensation versus the provision of the service and the fleet. And THETA is always providing the ticket. The ticket should be the usual public transport ticket for the DRT service use. Then we have a new option, which is a new DRT service. So the new DRT service owners could be the municipalities or the big generators, as I said before. There is an option that there is a contract with a DRT service provider, for example, like an existing public transport provider or a taxi company, but it could be also introduced, run by the service owner, the DRT service owner, so the municipality purchasing their own fleet or leasing their own fleet, etc., etc. And then they are providing the DRT service use, and we could have a ticket, subsidy to the ticket, no ticket is a decision of the service owner, but there should be an agreement with THETA in order to have inclusion under the DRT framework. And this is my final slide. We have a new approach for Ioannina in the framework of this Althea project. So there we're trying to introduce a DRT service, or not only a DRT service, for industrial stakeholders. So the basic objective is to have a green deal for climate neutral industry. So what it means, green deal? It means that the industrial stakeholders and the municipality, as a mission city, they have agreed on some benefits one way or another in order to introduce climate neutral actions, one of which could be on-demand public transport. Industries can become the leading stakeholder within the ecosystem under, of course, a city's governing role, and new, more effective DRT solutions support accessibility of the local community's industrial area as a co-benefit as well. So while this service is mainly meant for the commuters towards the industrial area, the communities in this area can also benefit from the introduction of the new service. So this provides an ecosystem of mobility services. The key success criteria is the modal shift from diesel cars to sustainable mobility modes. One big question is whether we're going to use existing fleet, like existing public transport, for example, operators, or new electric vehicles. And the only option is not only DRT. This is the point. The point is that since the industrial stakeholders have already the mandate to decrease the number of commuting by private cars, they can use other mobility services under the same funding scheme. And this could be carpooling, car sharing, promotion of e-mobility, or corporate mobility as a service. So thank you very much. This was my presentation.
Thank you, Vasilis. It is very, very interesting. As we are a bit behind schedule, I will quickly pass it through Brendan Finn in order to start our panel discussion. Thank you very much, Brendan.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you to all the speakers who've made the presentations so far. You can hear me okay? Am I coming through okay, Maria?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, thank you. So for our panel discussion, we have our three speakers, and we're also joined by Karl-Heinz Schun from the Coastal District in Germany, and Declan Rice from Kilkenny Leader Partnership in Ireland. So when they first speak, then they can give a short introduction about themselves and the mobility services. Many of you know them already, but for our newcomers, then that would be very good and very useful. I just noticed that a number of people have joined during the course of this webinar. So I just remind them the recording will be made available in a few weeks' time, and it will be on the ERMN website. So yes, you have missed the thing so far, but you'll be able to catch up when you look at the recording. There are some questions from the chat that I'll pick up after we've done the panel discussion. We still have, what, 20 minutes left, Maria? Or 15? You can...
Yes, we have 20 minutes left.
So we will be precise on that. I noticed that Miguel has already answered some of the questions in the chat. So I'll pick up any remaining questions after we've had our first round of discussions with the panelists. So the two big issues that we're coming across all the time is, I mean, we can see that we can get services established, and that's been very, very good. But how can we engage stakeholders for other funding sources to contribute to it? Because sometimes it's a bit of a challenge. And the second, and much more important, and already Vasilis has touched on it, is how do we sustain services after we get them going? So after the big startup effort, how do we get them maintained to sustained value for the communities and the users of the service? So I might start with the first question, first of all to Miguel and then to Karl-Heinz. And this is about, when you launched your mobility service, did you already have a funding mechanism in place for the years to come? Or at least a commitment, a general commitment that the money would be there? Or you just started the service and had to figure out where the money would come from in year 3, 4, and 5? Maybe, Miguel, I'd turn to you first, and then Karl-Heinz could contribute a little bit as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. In fact, no. When we designed the public contract, there was no multi-annual funding guarantee from the states. This required us to be somewhat cautious about the improvements introduced in the contracts. At the time of the procedure, state funding was primarily focused on fare reductions and was significantly lower than it is today. With that in mind, it was established an agreement between the 5 municipalities of Alentejo Litoral, whereby each part would finance the operation based on the allocation of kilometers within its territory. However, as this was the first contract, we decided to limit the improvements introduced in the system in order to avoid placing an excessive financial burden on the municipalities. This amounted to approximately €500,000 per year. In the meantime, and after the contract had been signed, the Incentive Plus TP program was created, which is as a 5-year funding horizon, which somewhat is the same of our contracts, and combined the two previous funds available into a single program. As a result, it was necessary it was not necessary to draw on municipal funding. The main lesson in this is that public transport contracts, which are inherently multi-annual, and ours is quite short. The first one is only for 5 years. Clearly benefit from equally multi-annual funding mechanisms. Without any kind of predictability, the tendency is to design networks that are less ambitious and what the territory could actually support. We are planning on the second generation of contracts, given that this funding will carry on, to have more robust contracts with more frequencies, with more transportation, hopefully also with DRT available, And we are currently considering amending the current contract to include additional services, but we still need to overcome some obstacles, and maybe that will only happen in the second generation. So yeah, having a well-defined funding is essential to understand what we can do with the service itself. For example, also in the second generation of contracts, we will also require the operator to have higher fleet standards. If this, for any reason, the program is not maintained, a new funding agreement between the municipalities will once again be considered, as I've said before. The public the transport system has to carry on, and it's not about profitability, but it's about connecting people to places, to services, to employment, to healthcare, and to school. So we need to, and the municipalities also understand that investment has to be made independently if there is or not state funding available for it.
Karl-Heinz, if I turn to you, but also Dominic, you might also, after Karl-Heinz, you might talk a little bit about the length of the arrangement you have with the municipality for your service. But Karl-Heinz, if I turn to you, you're at the very different end of the scale, working within the very much the volunteer-based sector. You might give us a very brief introduction to what you're doing in Coastal District and in other areas, and then talk again a little bit about this, you know, the do you have sustained funding arrangements and how do you manage them? Thank you.
So in Germany, we have different levels of responsibilities for public transport. The Kusel County is the lowest level for the official public transport, and the next level below the community itself, it's responsible for our volunteer-driven service. We call it Bürgerbus or Citizen Bus. It is a service we are just 2 days a week on the road. The service is for free, and the people have to book their trips in advance. The good thing for the community is it's not a very expensive service. The community just has to pay for the bus and some maintenances and some stuff and security things. But the most costs is the people, the drivers, and the coordinators. They work for free. They are volunteers and they don't get any money. And we started this system 9 years ago. And next year we want to celebrate our 10th birthday. And that is a good sign. That is a very solid and ground-based service. And I think it's very good that the first, it's not very expensive for the community. And it's a basic where everybody knows each other. The users knows the drivers, and the drivers and the users do knows the political actors in the community. So it's a very personal connection, and everybody agrees that we want to continue the service on this very low level.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. And as we move to you, Dominic, I just point out that there's a lot of resources on the Smarta and SmartaNet website. So, for example, Miguel has explained during our meeting in Évora, there is a lot of information about the systems that are there. Karl-Heinz has presented about Bürgerbus on other occasions. So you can find many materials on our legacy websites, or just contact us and we'll tell you if already there is more information available that you can view as a webinar or presentation. But maybe, Dominic, you might just give us a brief idea of whether you had a commitment, short-term, medium, multi-year, or whatever, with the city. As you say, you put €3.5 million into it. So, what was the basis on which you had continued agreements?
Yeah, thanks for that. So it was the whole idea and the vision was that this thing will happen and we will be able to launch the effective DRT more effective than in other countries or in the world. So that was our global idea with our investors, and they've been pretty much brave to invest to us and fulfill this vision. But so years ago, it was all about the pilot. Like we understand that the minimal, let's say, pilot term is half a year or better, like 1 year. But like after 3 years, 4 years, and with the change of the legislation in Czech Republic, it really gained the momentum. So now most of the contracts and most of the, let's say, deployments are for 4 years minimum, because DRT happened to be part of the public transport network. It's in the legislation, and it's already like, it's not kind of innovation in Czech Republic anymore. It's the system which we know how to do that, how it could work, what it would like, what data, what in terms of cost, what could bring us. So it really, this thing changed, and I can see that even in other countries like where we are, like in Poland and Slovakia. This year, the law is changed for the DRT, for like fully flexible digital and technology, let's say, mature DRT systems are introduced into the law. So we are expecting the same thing, that it will not be about the innovation pilots, but it will be like one of the basic systems for public transport, because we have the technology now, and it will be much stronger in the future use.
Okay, thank you. If I can turn to Declan and then to Vasilis, a question is, you've blended funding, I think, and either now or for the future, you're looking at getting funding from multiple stakeholders. And could you give an indication of those, what kind of stakeholders you tap into for funding, but especially, do you find that the stakeholders are active in some way? Are they active participants in the planning and the design and launching and promoting? Or are they primarily sources of funding that are passive? Maybe Declan, I'll turn to you, and you might just very briefly introduce yourself, KLP's activities in rural mobility, and then we'll go to Vasilis.
Thanks very much, Brendan. County Leader Partnership is a leader lag, a local action group. So we're not primarily transport, but we are very much about rural development and the quality of life of rural people. And I would say, and I've said it frequently, that access and mobility is probably the key element in that, and probably needs to be prioritized and privileged more in discussions. Colleagues here today, Jackie Mealy and Barry Doyle from Ringalink, which is a community-based company providing community transport across our region, a wider region, and also Garrett Hanlon, who is the coordinator of the Barrow Bus project, which is a really simple project, which is running a bus on a loop during the summer months in a really rural part of the area, which is isolated, free of charge. And the reason for that is that it gets us around regulation issues. Really, that money for that has come, I suppose, a certain amount of leaning on colleagues such as Jackie and Barry to help out. Leader money, so rural development money, which is fairly flexible in essence, although in practice it can be tricky to actually do it. But we are, I think, probably sailing close to the wind in this. Really, what we're engaged in here is it's data collection, it's action research, and it's a multi-annual project. We're trying to gather enough data and proof so that we can answer the questions which often come from the funders. If I can just put it out there, if somebody claims the mandate and the right to decide on transport things, they should also take the responsibility when that's not there. So that should become the other side of the playing card. If you want to have the mandate, you have to act to it. So I do think far too much in Ireland of what we do is funded centrally, central government, right down to where bus stops are placed in rural areas. Ridiculous stuff decided by an office in Dublin. Makes no sense at all. But also on more strategic elements. But also the big issue, I think, is we have leaned into whatever funding we have. Leader, Ringalink have helped when they can. We bought a bus off Ringalink at a reasonable price to run this service, things like that. But when you're running small services, summer services, you can do that. It's not really possible to do it when you're talking about on a longer term basis. We do have a ticketing service, which is helpful and helps us gather information as well, gather data. So if you really are getting beyond what I suppose we're doing in the Barrow Bus, and maybe to some extent what Karl Heinz is doing in the Burgo Bus, which is community action at a local level, if you are to integrate that into systems, you need more security with budgets, and you need more subsidiarity on where those decisions are made at community level, municipality level, or regional level. And those frameworks have to be there to allow people to plug into them. So I don't know if that quite answers your question, Brendan, but it got something off my chest anyway.
Well, I'm glad we served that purpose, Declan. No, it really does. It gives a good introduction now to Vasilis, and maybe you might also just pick up on this point that because you identified quite a number of potential sources of financing. Would you say them, or contributors, would you see them as being very active participants or as primarily passive sources of funding?
No, I don't think so. They are not. They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. And we have, as a matter of fact, Maria has already mentioned in the chat about the opportunities for funding that are coming from the social climate funding. And this is a good opportunity for Greece. But still, we need to do, but this is a top-down approach. We are still struggling to understand what are the problems of public transport and how to solve them with DRT or other means at the bottom level. And by the bottom level, I mean two things. One is the stakeholder. I will take one example I said for Thessaloniki. The Public Transport Authority, which is actually representing the ministry, is directly and continuously discussing with the municipalities, with the local authorities, what this service should look like. We have, in this sense, trying to arrange for a local forum of Greek municipalities for around Thessaloniki within 2026, in order exactly to define what should be the DRT service these metropolitan municipalities would like to have in collaboration with the Transport Authority. So this is a very important step from my side, because this is going to be also a bottom-up approach. We have the top-down from the ministry, and the ministry will define what they mean by DRT or through also the Public Transport Authority. But it's essential to have a dialogue also with the local authorities and understand what they actually are needing as local communities. Then we have another approach, which is very important. I think this is the inclusion of the citizens. I have a very good experience with the municipality for Orchestra, which is going to be the second case of the upper pilot in Thessaloniki. It's a metropolitan municipality. And then we have already arranged 2 meetings with actual citizens, not only the people representing the municipality, and they have their political agenda, their political objectives, etc., which is very nice. Of course, we have to satisfy what the mayor and what the vice mayors want, and so on. But we have already invited within these discussions representatives of the citizens from the different communities, because the problem they have there is that there are some 10 villages around the central village of Oreokastro, and all these people are not connected with each other. And they are talking about what their problems, what their needs, and how they would like this service to be deployed. So these are 2 important tools I would like to add. One is forum of municipalities. All the municipalities are talking with the Public Transport Authority, but also direct access to the citizens. Another point I would like to have is about the business model I introduced with the industrial stakeholders. This is very important within what we call the local Green Deal I already mentioned. It means that the city will have the major governance role in guiding the service, and they should give some kind of incentives to the stakeholders, industrial stakeholders, to fund this kind of service. The industrial stakeholders will do it probably also because they have some ESG goals, etc. But by giving them incentives, they are going to be an acceleration of this whole process, to my understanding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vasilis. There was a question came in from, in fact, before the webinar started. So we'd invited participants to submit some questions in advance, and one that I'd like to turn towards Dominic, because I think you're the best position to answer it, is how can technology providers find pilot locations and entities for cooperation on different project opportunities? Can this be a win-win for local actors?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky topic, because we are struggling a lot, to be honest, as a commercial partner, as a company, to find the partners like the cities and governments to get there, and then after months or years of discussing the service, the expectation, the technology integration to the legacy network, the tariff system, and so on, we are facing the tender, which is like 100% price. So it's a tricky part, and then definitely I don't want to recommend to do that because it's always end up with some solution which is not great, and after a few months or after a year, most of in these cases where there have been some like solution without the technology or like kind of DRT, not proper DRT. After half a year or 1 year, the service was cancelled, and everyone have been thinking the DRT can't work, and let's get back to fixed lines, which are here for 40, 50 more years. So definitely it's a discussion between the regions and the small cities. And as Vasilis said, like there's two approach, and it is the answer for the question. So the first thing, there's a regional partner who know where the public transport doesn't work, who know where there's white spots in the serviceability, and he know how to work and how to implement the DRT. So commercial partner can help them to set up the system, to provide them with the technology, and to follow their ideas and their visions. That's one way, and that's great. On the other side, there's small villages and the people who need something, who need to go somewhere, and they don't have the options with the public transport or other mode of transport. So there's the cities who need a solution now. They can't wait for the fundings. They can't wait and in Czech, and we don't have a social and environment funds. So they need a solution now. They are able to do it by like a quick tender for the transportation agency, or they can buy their cars and they launch the service for example, like next year with few cars. So that's the easier way, but it's definitely is not the preferred one, because it's without the integration, it's not let's say supporting the public transport network, and definitely it's not the best idea or best way how to do it, but it's fast. And so far we've been growing through both of the approach. One of with the regional partners, and the second one with the small cities. So yeah, it's hard, but it's possible.
Okay, thanks, Dominic. I think this actually could be a topic for at least a workshop or a discussion within a future webinar. Maria, I guess we're out of time for discussion, aren't we?
Unfortunately, yes, but we can promise full discussion.
What I suggest then is, look, we have received questions, quite a number from the participants. So what we will do is we'll assemble those and we'll share them with our panelists, and we'll ask them for their feedback and their comments, and we will get answers back to you. There may be some cases where we just put people directly in contact with each other. There were some specific questions for Dominic, for example, and a few others. So we'll see what's the most efficient way, because a lot of you as participants have contributed in the chat and put some really good questions. There's one in here actually from Giacomo Lozzi, who has been asking specifically about, is there a definition for DRT in your country? And that is a topic, an event in its own right. So maybe what we'll do is we can, within the ERMN, we can maybe issue just a call to participants in this and to other people within the network and say, what's the situation in your country? We did this about 7 years ago on the Smarta project, but of course things shift all the time, and that's why we need to have these webinars, is because compared to, let's say, even the good events we did in Ever and Bingen, is that's now 2.5 years ago, things are moving on. And these webinars are ways in which we see what is the latest that is happening. So with that, I'll close the discussion. Sorry that it was a bit shorter than we anticipated. A big thank you to our panelists, and I hand you back to Maria to finish out the event for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brendan. I will pass it on now to Eleonora and Matilde from the ERMN in order to listen to some of our next news and upcoming activities. And we will finish right afterwards.
Thank you so much, Maria. Can you all hear me well? Okay, perfect. About the news and the upcoming activities of the ERMN, we can see that we are planning to do a next in-person event in few months, and we will talk about the opening on the membership and also about where to find all the materials of this webinar and the previous one, and other news on our newsletter. That yep. Can you please share the next slide? Thank you. I think someone has his mic on. Okay. Anyway, the next event we are planning to do is the second ERMN in-person event. It will be about an European conference on rural mobility, trying to connect local, national, and European stakeholders. The date will be the last week of October, approximately, and can be the 28th or 29th. And the possible location is to be announced soon, so we'll keep you updated. The format for this event will be a 2-day in-person event, and the main theme we want to share with you and to talk about is policy and service standards for rural mobility, and then the examination of current challenge, solution, and ways forward to identify how the European Parliament and the European Commission can stimulate extending local level action across EU member states and regions. For the next thematic we want to talk about, I will leave the floor to Eleonora, and we will share with you some important news about the membership. Please, Eleonora.
Thank you very much, Matilde. So now it's the time to talk about a very important news for our network, that is the official launch of the ERMN membership. So if you have been following our work and feel inspired by what we are building together, that is really your opportunity to become a formal and active part of it. The ERMN is growing as a European community, bringing together, as you know, rural municipalities, LAGs, practitioners, policymakers, who all share a common goal, that is improving rural mobility across Europe. So by becoming a member, you gain access to 3 core pillars. First of all, the collaboration, as you will connect with peers and experts from across Europe who face the same challenges you face every day. Then knowledge sharing, as you will have access to best practices, case studies, and other tools we will develop right here within the network. And then you will be part of a collective voice, so together we can advocate more effectively for rural mobility at the European level. Next slide, please. But what do you actually get when you join the European Rural Mobility Network? So let me walk you briefly through the concrete benefits we have designed for our members. We have structured them across 4 main categories. So first of all, the strategic benefits. As a member, your local initiatives will gain visibility through our communication channels at the European level. So, and then you can use our branding for our events. You'll be eligible also for future ERMN awards. Then operational benefits. You'll get prioritized access to our future in-person, but also online events. Some of them will be restricted to members. You will have entry to the restricted area of our website and access to key policy documents. Then you'll gain knowledge-based benefits, including newsletters, webinar presentations, publications, notifications about relevant call for tenders, for example, and then networking benefits. So you'll be able to participate in matchmaking formats, join opportunities to develop also project proposals, and exchange experience directly with both practitioners and policymakers. So these are, in our opinion, realistic value-adding benefits designed to reflect the current spirit of the European Rural Mobility Network. But now let's get more practical, because we know this is often the first question people ask. So how much does it cost? We've worked hard to keep the membership fee as accessible as possible, in line with the voluntary and collaborative nature of the network. So here are the key principles. A membership fee will be introduced from the 1st September 2026 and will cover membership throughout 2027. Fees are tailored to the type and size of your organization. So ranging from 300 euros for very small rural municipalities and LACs up to 1,000 euros for larger entities. And we are offering some discounts. So for the first 100 members who join, they will receive an additional 26% discount. And last but not least, another early bird incentive for the first 30 members. They will also receive an additional advantage, that is an additional year for free, of membership for free. But what do you need to do next? So it's very simple and starts today. Here's basically the timeline from today. The expression of interest to become a formal member, a full member of the European Rural Mobility Network is officially open. So you can register your interest right now using a Google form link. It is very easy, and I've just posted it into the chat box. It only takes a few minutes to complete. So have a look at it as soon as you can. So from 1st September 2026, the ERMN membership officially launches, and the first members will be onboarded. So we warmly invite you and your organization to be among the founding, among the full members of this growing European community. And thank you very much. We look forward to welcoming you. And now I will pass over again to Matilde for the next news on the network.
Okay, thank you, Eleonora, for sharing all these. Back to the other news, there are several ways to keep in touch with the network and to be involved with it. We can see here our website. We have a section dedicated to our activities, as you can see. And here you can find all the materials about the latest webinars, about the newsletter, and the promotional materials for other events. And you can download them and also see the video recordings of this webinar and of the other ones. So as soon as soon as possible will be available also the material for this webinar online. On our website, we have also a page dedicated to our friends, and we are really pleased to announce that we have reached more than 50 friends now. They have very different background because can be local and regional authorities, associations, NGOs, transport and mobility service providers, and of course they are from very different nationalities. So it's a very large group that is keep growing, and we are very happy of it. Okay, another easy and also funny way to keep in touch with ERMN is following the LinkedIn page. We have also now launched a new format that is designed more to interact with who doesn't have maybe a strong background on the thematics. And so it's made to stimulate curiosity and make it more accessible to everyone. We have launched the first field that was on why rural mobility matters, and the next one will be who pays for rural mobility. So some insight from this webinar will be included also in this new post. So stay tuned. Another way. Another way to keep up to date is to subscribe to our newsletter. You can see here the links to the subscription, and you can find also the information on our website. You can follow, of course, the page, as I've already said. We encourage you to do so, and of course, stay tuned for the membership updates. I will now hand over again to Maria for the greetings, the final greetings. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all our speakers and participants for being with us today. keep in mind one of our key pillars that we're saying that rural mobility isn't about transport, it's about access to opportunities, tackling transport poverty and care dependence, and making actually the right to move and the right to stay a reality for everyone, regardless of where they live. So we warmly invite you to join our community and become members to the ERMN and take part in future webinars and activities. Thank you again for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you again. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.